Princess Lyra of the Valtorian Empire stood before the Grand Council Chamber's crystalline windows, her silver skin shimmering under the light of 3 suns. Behind her, the council members whispered among themselves, their bioluminescent markings flickering with barely concealed anxiety. The topic of discussion made her stomach tighten with revulsion. "Absolutely not," she declared, turning to face the assembled nobles. "I will not bind myself to some primitive human, regardless of what political advantages you believe it offers." High Counselor Dren stepped forward, his ancient features creased with concern. "Princess, you must understand the gravity of our situation. The Kryn Collective advances on our borders daily. Humanity may be young, but their military innovations have held back 3 major invasions. An alliance through marriage would secure their full support." Lyra's eyes blazed violet with anger. "The humans have been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries. They build their ships from salvage technology and outdated theories. They lack telepathic abilities, proper genetic engineering, and any semblance of cultural refinement. They consume dead organic matter for sustenance, Counselor." "Dead matter. They also," interrupted General Koss from across the chamber, "possess something we do not. They call it stubbornness. Where a dozen advanced species retreated from Kryn aggression, humans held the line at the Battle of Broken Stars. 40 ships against 300. They should have been annihilated in minutes. And yet they weren't," added Ambassador Trell quietly. "They adapted mid-battle, using tactics no strategic computer could predict. Chaotic, yes. Effective, undeniably so." Lyra crossed her arms. "I have read the reports. Their commander violated 17 protocols of space warfare, risked civilian vessels, and somehow emerged victorious through sheer recklessness. This is not a species I wish to align myself with." "The human delegation arrives in 3 days," Dren reminded her. "Their representative, Commander Blake Morgan, personally requested this meeting. He has offered not just military alliance, but technology sharing, trade routes, and cultural exchange." "He can offer all the stars in the galaxy," Lyra snapped. "My answer remains unchanged." The council fell silent. Finally, Dren spoke again, his voice heavy. "Then you leave us no choice, Princess. The Emperor, your father, has invoked the decree of survival. You will meet with Commander Morgan. If you still refuse after speaking with him, we will respect your decision. But you must at least grant him an audience." Lyra wanted to argue, to rage against this manipulation, but the decree of survival was ancient law. When the Empire itself faced extinction, certain protocols superseded even royal privilege. She nodded stiffly and left the chamber, her flowing robes trailing behind her like liquid mercury. 3 days passed too quickly. Lyra spent them researching everything about humans, building her case for rejection. They were short-lived, averaging less than a century. They possessed only 5 senses compared to the Valtorian 12. Their culture was fragmented into thousands of competing factions. They still suffered from diseases that Valtorian medicine had eliminated. Millennia ago when Commander Blake Morgan finally arrived at the palace. Lyra positioned herself on the throne dais, every inch the imperial princess. She had chosen her most formal attire, a gown woven from starlight itself, and her crown bore 7 precious stones representing the 7 core worlds of the Empire. The human who entered the throne room did not match her expectations. He walked with quiet confidence, not the swagger she had anticipated. His uniform was simple, dark blue with minimal decoration. He was tall by human standards, with brown skin and close-cropped black hair showing threads of gray. Most surprisingly, his dark eyes held no arrogance, no presumption. He stopped at the appropriate distance and bowed, not too deep, not too shallow. "Princess Lyra," he said in perfectly accented Valtorian, "thank you for granting me this audience. I am Blake Morgan." The fact that he had learned her language notoriously difficult for non-telepathic species, surprised her. She kept her expression neutral. "Commander Morgan, my council informs me you wish to discuss an alliance." "I do, but not through the means they proposed." He straightened, meeting her eyes. "I came to withdraw the marriage offer." The throne room fell absolutely silent. Even the guards at the door stiffened in shock. Lyra leaned forward slightly. "Explain yourself." Blake's expression remained calm. "I reviewed the proposal after it was submitted by our diplomatic corps. It was presumptuous and frankly insulting. Your people possess one of the oldest civilizations in this galaxy. You have art, philosophy, and scientific achievements that humanity can barely comprehend. The idea that we would demand marriage as the price of alliance suggests we view you as lesser beings to be bargained for." He paused. "I found the entire concept distasteful." Lyra studied him carefully, searching for deception. Her empathic senses detected only sincerity and a hint of embarrassment. "Yet you came all this way?" "To apologize," he said simply, "and to offer true alliance. Partnership between equals, not a transaction where your autonomy is the currency." Something shifted in Lyra's chest, an emotion she could not quite name. She descended from the dais, approaching him slowly. At this distance, she could observe details the throne room's elevation had hidden. He carried faint scars on his hands. His uniform, though clean, showed signs of repair. This was not a ceremonial officer, but one who had seen real combat. "You fought at the Battle of Broken Stars," she said. "I did. The reports say you violated numerous tactical protocols." A faint smile crossed his face. "The reports are correct. We call it thinking outside the box. Protocols are useful until they become predictable. The Kryn rely heavily on prediction algorithms. We exploited that weakness by acting irrationally, by acting unpredictably," he corrected gently. "There's a difference. Irrational suggests no thought process. We thought very carefully about how to be unpredictable." Despite herself, Lyra found her lips curving into a small smile. "A carefully planned chaos, exactly." His expression grew more serious. "Princess, humanity needs allies. The Kryn won't stop with the border systems. But we won't build alliances on the backs of forced marriages or political hostages. If Valtoria wishes to stand with us, we stand as partners. If not, we understand and will still offer what assistance we can." Lyra walked to the windows overlooking the capital city. Millions of Valtorians lived their lives below, unaware of how close the Empire teetered toward collapse. The Kryn Collective had already claimed 17 colonies. Military projections gave them 5 years before the core worlds came under direct threat. "Your fleet is small," she said quietly. "Yes, your technology is inferior. In many ways. Yes, your average soldier lives less time than our junior officers serve. True." He moved to stand beside her, though he maintained respectful distance. "But we don't quit. Ever. It's a species-wide defect, according to most galactic powers. We see an impossible situation, and somehow decide it's negotiable." She turned to look at him. "Is that what you see here? An impossible situation to negotiate?" "I see an empire that has forgotten how to be desperate," he said carefully. "Valtoria has existed for 50,000 years. You have protocols for everything, including surrender. Humanity has no protocol for surrender because we've never accepted it as an option. It makes us reckless, yes, but it also makes us very, very stubborn." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. "The Council will be disappointed. They genuinely believed marriage alliance was our best option." "May I speak freely?" "You've been doing so already." That earned her a genuine smile. "True. I think your council is afraid, and fear makes people grasp at desperate solutions. But there are better ways. Share intelligence with us. Let our engineers study your defensive systems and offer perspectives. Allow our diplomatic corps to open communication channels with neutral parties. Marriage would give you one alliance. Partnership gives you options. Something crystallized in Lyra's mind, a realization that had been building since he entered the room. This human, this supposedly primitive being, had done something no Valtorian noble had managed in months. He had treated her not as a prize to be won or a tool to be used, but as a person with agency and intelligence. "Commander Morgan," she said slowly, "I believe I misjudged your species. Most do, initially. We're not particularly impressive on paper. Tell me honestly, would humanity fight for Valtoria even without formal alliance?" He considered the question seriously. Probably. The Kryn represent a threat to everyone. Letting them consume the Empire would only make them stronger. So yes, we would fight, though our government would prefer having formal agreements to make the logistics easier. Because protocols and paperwork matter, even to humans. Especially to humans. We may think outside the box, but we still really like having a box to reference. Lyra laughed, genuinely laughed for the first time in weeks. The sound surprised her. "You are very strange, Commander." "I'll take that as a compliment, Princess." She made a decision then, one that would likely shock the Council, but felt absolutely correct. "I wish to propose a counteroffer to your counteroffer." Blake raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "Valtoria will enter full military and economic alliance with humanity. No marriage required. However, I would request that you personally serve as liaison between our forces. Your understanding of both protocol and when to abandon it would be valuable. I would be honored. Additionally," she continued, feeling bold, "I wish to learn more about human culture directly. Not from reports or diplomatic summaries. From someone who lives it." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You want to actually get to know us. Revolutionary concept, I know." She clasped her hands behind her back. "I spent 3 days researching why I should reject you. I never once considered simply talking to you. That was short-sighted of me." Blake nodded slowly. "Then let me start with something humans do when beginning friendships. Would you like to have dinner, Princess? Nothing formal, no ceremonies. Just two people talking. About what? Whatever comes up. That's how we usually do it." Lyra considered the offer. No Valtorian noble would ever make such a casual suggestion. Meals were ceremonies, carefully planned social events with specific purposes. The idea of eating simply to talk seemed almost scandalously informal. "I accept," she said. The dinner, held in a private chamber rather than the grand hall, proved unlike anything Lyra had experienced. Blake shared stories of Earth, of cities she could barely imagine, and cultures so diverse they barely seemed to belong to the same species. He spoke of families who disagreed fundamentally, yet still gathered to share meals. He described art created not by gene-tailored masters, but by anyone with passion and vision. In return, Lyra found herself sharing things she had never told her own counselors. Her frustration with the rigid protocols that governed every aspect of imperial life. Her love of ancient poetry that most Valtorians considered outdated. Her secret hobby of collecting what humans would call folk music from across the Empire. "You're a romantic," Blake observed as she described a particularly moving ballad from the outer colonies. "I am a princess," she corrected automatically, then stopped. "Though perhaps you're right. Is that a human trait?" "It's a sentient being trait. We all want to believe in something beyond cold logic and survival instincts." As the evening progressed, Lyra realized something profound. The alliance her council sought through marriage had been based on transaction and strategy. What was forming across this simple dinner table was something far more powerful because it was built on genuine respect and curiosity, When Blake finally prepared to leave, she walked him to the landing platform where his shuttle waited. The 3 suns had set, replaced by the glow of the Empire's twin moons. "Commander Morgan," she said formally, then corrected herself. "Blake, thank you for withdrawing that proposal. Thank you for giving me the chance to explain why. I suspect my council will want to resurrect the marriage idea in some form. They're persistent." Blake smiled. "Let them try. You've already made your position clear. Besides, I think you and I work better as friends and allies than we ever would as political pawns." "Agreed." She paused, then added, "Though I wonder what they would say if I told them I was considering the idea now of my own free will." His eyes widened slightly. "Princes? Hypothetically speaking," she continued, enjoying his surprise. "If 2 people from different species discovered they genuinely respected and enjoyed each other's company, and if an alliance through marriage would benefit both their peoples, and if both parties entered such an arrangement freely and willingly," she met his gaze directly, "would that be primitive and distasteful?" Blake was quiet for a long moment. "No, that would be something else entirely. I thought so." She smiled. "Hypothetically speaking, of course." "Of course." He returned the smile. "Though for the record, hypothetically, I would consider it an honor. Noted for future reference, Commander." She extended her hand in the human custom he had taught her during dinner. "Until we meet again." He took her hand gently. "Until then, Princess." As his shuttle lifted into the night sky, Lyra remained on the platform, watching until it disappeared among the stars. Behind her, she sensed High Counselor Dren approaching. "The human refused the alliance?" he asked carefully. "No," Lyra said, still gazing upward. "He offered a better one, and I accepted. But the marriage was never necessary for alliance, Counselor. Though I suspect, given time and choice, it may happen anyway." She turned to face him. "Prepare full partnership protocols with humanity. Military integration, technology exchange, cultural programs. I want our people working together within the month. And if the Council objects, then remind them that humans don't quit. Neither will I. This alliance will succeed not because we forced it through marriage, but because we built it on something stronger." "Which is?" Lyra smiled, thinking of brown eyes that held both humor and determination, of a man who had crossed the galaxy to apologize rather than demand, of conversations that felt like discoveries rather than negotiations. "Possibility, Counselor. Pure, chaotic, human possibility." She walked back toward the palace, already planning the next meeting. Destiny, she decided, had indeed held a surprise for her. Just not the one anyone expected. And that, she was learning, was the most human thing of all.